Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from around the world. I'm so delighted that you're here today for another lesson in Reinvent Your Impact. As you know, for the past several weeks, every day, we've been talking about how you can become a better, more confident woman in leadership by reinventing your impact. And this week, we've been talking about image and influence, which I think is a very important subject. And for those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Geneva Williams. Oftentimes I don't say my last name, but it's Geneva Williams, Dr. Geneva, most folk call me. And lost an earring here, first thing in the morning. As I told you, I'm doing this in the morning. I've just come from working out. I work out first thing in the morning, and sometimes I don't have my stuff all together, hair just finished washing, the whole bit. But I'm here for you because I want to really talk about this conversation. When we talk about reinventing your image and influence, it really is about deliberately, intentionally shifting how you present yourself and connect with others. And it's particularly this shifting, this reinventing is particularly crucial for midlife female leaders, those of you in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. We're not just talking about updating your look. It's really about evolving how you lead, communicate, and engage because you're in a special time of your life. I think it's the most wonderful. And I'm telling you, I'm living my best life now. It's just an age where, you know stuff. You've got wisdom, you've got experience, you're seasoned, you've been through stuff. But maybe you're a little unsure or uncertain about your next steps. You might want to be changing your career, doing that passion that you've always dreamed about doing, starting a business. But it's those next steps that perhaps you're not certain about, and you want to stay relevant. You want to stay with it. You don't want to be invisible or in a corner somewhere, but you want to explore, well, what are my options? So, all this week and throughout the series, I've been sharing tips and advice and strategies on how you can lead your life, lead better in the various leadership roles that you're in as a midlife 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond leader. And so, I do believe with the right mindset and skills and intention that any woman can continue her influence and enhance it and elevate it and can positively influence communities and causes that you care about. I'm a leadership expert and I specialize in reinvention and life transitions and helping women who are in leadership positions, whether it's in a company or running your own business or leading a nonprofit or leading in your family. There are certain skills and actions that you want to make sure that you have so that you can continue to grow and share your gifts. So today's lesson is about the art of first impressions. Okay. And this subject is important because those first impressions matter. They reflect your growth as a leader, and your first impressions can showcase your wisdom and your dynamism in every interaction, whether you're in business, nonprofits, or in entrepreneurship, if you use it right, if you really think about that first impression and really be intentional about it. So, let me share with you the quote. And as you know, if you've been following this series, I love to kind of set the stage with a quote, and then we get into some teaching that I'm going to do. And listen, if you're enjoying this content, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. I'd love it. Um, okay, here's who we're using today. So, Oscar Wilde, who's a playwright and a poet, was says, "You never get a second chance to make a first impression." All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And good morning. Oh, Pamela, how are you? So good to see you. And Sean, all the way from Spain. That's why I say we're international too. It's so good to see you. And anyone else, please say hello. Let me know where you're from. Okay, so let's get into what really Oscar Wilde was talking about was um, this really whole notion about when you see somebody first time, it shapes your perception. And this is particularly critical for leaders because first impressions often shape how leaders are perceived. And so, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you've been through a lot, you've got the wisdom, you've got seasons, you may be saying, well, I got my stuff together and, I don't need to be changing. But what I want you to do is to think about it because it's an opportunity to evolve when you're thinking about making a different move, whether again, it's changing a career or moving to a new city or anything that you go through in terms of life transitions, that your first impression follows you and helps set the stage for your influence and your impact. So, giving some thought to first impressions matters as you're elevating your impact, as you're reinventing, as you're taking next steps, whatever it is you're doing. We want to micro focus on first impressions. And, as you go through the lessons over these past few weeks, you can see we take various aspects of things you need to think about, you should consider in reinventing yourself, whatever it is that you want to do. So, 3 points I want to make about um, Oscar Wilde's first impressions, his thinking about how important that is. And this whole lesson today is about first impressions. So, the first thing I want you to think about is to update your personal presence, to be in with the times. Okay. And it's important as you're evolving your career or making your next moves that you align your personal appearance with your current professional identity and values. Okay. So that this means that you choose attire and a demeanor that reflect your maturity, expertise, along with the contemporary leadership role that you embody now or you want to move into. So the point is that you want to think about updating your personal presence. It's something to think about because, again, it's those first impressions that matter. And so if you're a seasoned executive, you're an experienced business owner, all good. You may want to think about a more modern yet professional look as you perhaps transition from that seasoned executive position to perhaps something else in your life that you want to do, something new. The point is that consider updating whatever it is you have now or whatever it is you're wearing now. Bottom line. Okay, number two. Um, Number two, I want you to remember that visual appearance. So we just talked about what you wear, and that's good. But first impressions really step beyond the clothing attire that you might have on. Okay. So that what we're really talking about is attire as well as demeanor and presence. So that you want to have this presence that accumulates, shows, speaks to all your wisdom and confidence combined with energy. Okay. So, this is something that I know many of the midlife 50s, 60s executives that I work with, we talk a lot about so that they're updating. We talk about how you can update your wardrobe, but we also talk about how you walk into a room and what your presence is. And, you've got that maturity and wisdom. And so updating your look, walking in with your shoulders, you know, back, a smile, your face lifted up, all of those things that the body language that shows confidence in. Here I am, I know things. I've been there. Let me share my wisdom with you. Here I am. You know what I'm saying? So the presence part is very important as we talk about these first impressions and then the energy. So, one of the things that it's so important for, and as I talk with um, leaders that I work with, is that energy, that the smile, the gestures, the hand gestures, the nodding of the head, the walk with upright to show that you've got this energy so that you're looking good and feeling good and people see it instantly. Okay. So the first point was about, of course, your attire. I want you to, look at your clothes, look at your attire. I want you to update them. You can flip through magazine, watch the shows, whatever you want to get the hints about what's the color of the season, what's the style of the season, and add just a few pieces in to your wardrobe. Okay, just to update it. And then the second piece is how you walk into a room, how you enter into a meeting. And that has to do with your posture, your demeanor, your nonverbal communication, your hand gestures, your smile, etc., the energy. Okay. So again, this body language and tone that conveys confidence, approachability, and a forward thinking looking mindset. Okay. Because again, many of us who are in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, we are competing with younger generations. And that's all good because we can. That's why it's important to, display the energy part. And so figure out what that means for you and hopefully take some of these suggestions with you. All right, then the third point I really want to make on this whole conversation about first impressions And this is something that is really critical. And I've done several videos on this. If you want to, look at other videos on my channel, and that is about authenticity and having and making these genuine connections. And that is so important as we talk about first impressions. And often there isn't a lot of conversations about that. It's the conversations when we talk about first impressions is often about, well, people think about how they look, like, well, I want to make a good first impression. Let me think about how I look, how I dress, how I walk in the room, which we've talked about, which is all good. But this third part is really about how you make connections with others and how that can lead to a really good first impression. And that's about genuine connections, authentic connections. Merriam-Webster dictionary identified authenticity, authentic, as being the 2023 word of the year. Because with so much noise going on and us not knowing what's real deal these days, AI and everything, that authentic, really has come to elevate in terms of what we do. And so one of the teaching points that I wanted to make in this conversation about first impressions that perhaps you don't often hear about is that making genuine connections can enhance your first impression as a leader. And really, so you've got the looks, you've got the demeanor, the confidence, and what you're about is genuine and authentic. That's the keys to some really great first impressions. And again, remember, showing genuine interest in who you're meeting, who you're connecting with matters. And you can use so many of the insights that you've gained and your wisdom in doing that. So think about that as you consider your first impression. So anyway, I just wanted to come in and really hone in this week. This whole week, we're talking about reinventing your impact and influence. The importance of first impressions is there. That's what this lesson was about, and how you present yourself can speak volumes. And this week, in terms of a call for action, what I'd like you to do is to, before your next meeting or event, I want you to think about this conversation we've had. So take a moment to prepare, not just in terms of what you're wearing, which is important, but also how you're going to walk into that room. Okay, so practice your greeting. Be very mindful of how you look in your body language. All of that is good, and it all matters when you're thinking about being the leader only you can be. I'm going to see you next time. Love you all. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Sean. Sean said, this is great. Thank you so much. I hope you feel the same way. If in fact you do, please think about leaving me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you for those of you who've left me comments. I love it. If you have questions, please leave them in the chat. And if you found value, subscribe. The most important thing is I hope you've taken some of these tips and advice and tools that I've given over this past week, and that you're using that so that in fact you are being the leader only you can be. Mwah! Love you. See you soon.